priest, you say, who's this priest? I remember me from last year. But anyway, as I said, my name is Bruno Piccolo. Italian. I was the youngest of 9 children. I was born in Padua, down near Venice. And I felt the calling when I made my first communion, September 8, 1948. And I said to Jesus, there are many priests here in my town, 3,000 people and 3 priests. I don't think you find any parish with that. 1,000 people for each priest. Huh? And so I said, I'd like to be a missionary. I didn't hear any voices, but in my heart the response was, it's okay with me. And so after I finished grade school, went on to high school, seminary, to college, and I came to the States, and I studied in Memphis, Michigan. You know what Memphis, Michigan is? Richmond, Lowell, Emmett, in that area, in that neck of the woods. So I studied for 4 years. I was ordained a priest there because our superior general was a bishop at that moment. And maybe you saw Father George or Father Dennis who come here. So I belong to the PIME missionary community. PIME does not stand for put in money every day. It's called Difficult Institute Mission. The word in Latin is exterrarum. Exterrarum means foreign, so foreign missions. So I worked for a few years in New Jersey, then I went to the Philippines for 8 years, came back to the States. I was in Chicago with young men wanting to be priests. Dennis, as a matter of fact, was one of the students. And then went to Los Angeles with Hispanics, went to Mexico with indigenous people in Guerrero, in Acapulco area. Then came back. I was here in Detroit for 10 years. I was responsible for our community in the States and in Mexico. And then the superior said, your new mission is Italy. I said, well, Italy is not a mission country. But he said, well, it'll be good for you and for us. And so I went. I was there for 12 years. I had still brothers and sisters. A couple of them passed away during those years. And I was close to the family, my nephews and nieces. And I enjoyed, the shrines, the beautiful places, the food of Italy. So it was a great opportunity to catch up. And then I came back in 2017. I was in New York for 3 years. We have a parish. We had, now there's somebody else, in Manhattan with Hispanics. But then when COVID came, I said, I better go to a safer place, which is here in Detroit, because we have our headquarters. We are now in Farmington Hills, 10 mile in Inkster, near Holy Sepulchre. So when I died, they just rolled in. And so there are 7 of us, and we have a mission center. We raise funds for the missions, and we help when we are asked for supply priests, And at my age, I pick and choose. So I hadn't been here for a while, and I said, I can go. So we celebrate the feast of the Annunciation. There is the Via Crucis, they say in Latin, the way of the cross, the different stations of the life of Jesus to Calvary, and then his death and the position and burial. Pope John Paul II had the Via Lucis, the way of light, which is like the stations about the resurrection of Christ. And it doesn't caught up. It was used when he first came out with it, but then I guess it was a devotion that, as far as I know, has not caught the popular desire. But there is also a Via Mariae, a way of Mary, And what I mean to say is, the different stages, different moments of the life of Mary is the life of each one of us. It's a journey. And so today is the Annunciation. For you and I were baptized as children, as babies, and there is a moment in which we come to realize my faith is something important. It's like a second conversion. And as we discover that, We try to attend Mass, we read the scriptures, we attend some Bible groups, we begin to serve others, and that's what Mary did. As she received the announcement and said, the angel said, Elizabeth also is with child, she went to visit her and to be a support. That's what we do when we discover Christ. We are sent to our brothers and sisters. And then we experience the joy of the faith, because we realize that there is a community of faith. There are moments in which we experience that faith is really a powerful way of putting purpose and enthusiasm and service. But then there is the visitation. Mary and Joseph bring the child Jesus to the temple, as was the custom that the firstborn would be offered to God. For the animals, they would kill it, but for the human beings, it was either a lamb, if they had the money, or a couple of turtle doves. And at that moment, when Joseph and Mary brought the child Jesus to the temple, they met Simeon. And he took the child in his arms and said, I can die in peace. I've seen the salvation of Israel. And you, Mary, a sword will pierce your heart. So when we follow God, sooner or later we find the cross. There is a suffering. Could be physical illness, could be relational in the marriage and the family, could be the hardships of other difficulties, maybe to move, not find any job, but there is a suffering. And for Mary too, when child Jesus was 12 years old, they brought him to the temple, he stayed behind, and they went back to look for him for 3 days. So the reality, I don't think I fully understand the love of a mother. When I was born, my mom came down with Parkinson's, and so she didn't hold me as much or breastfeed me. My sisters were the ones, since I was the baby. And it was an hindsight, we don't know our mother when we are born. We come to know later on, we realize who she is and how much she has done for us. And so, but also for Mary and Joseph, the fact of Jesus being not with them was a big sacrifice. But then they had quite a few years together. The tradition is that Joseph died during those years. And so when Jesus began his public life, Mary followed at times. In Cana, she interceded for the couple. But then she was at the foot of the cross. And for a mother to see her son die in such a horrible way. But then she waited for his resurrection with the apostles. So as we celebrate this feast, let us keep in mind at times we pray to Our Lady and we see the great faith and the great attention towards others, the great perseverance, and what we have to do is to imitate her. There is a person, she has died already, but one day she was praying, like many of us, before the Blessed Sacrament, and she was saying, you found a way to stay with us in the Eucharist. Couldn't you find a way for your mother, Mary? And she didn't hear any voice, but in her heart, Jesus said, I didn't find a way because I want to see her in you. So each one of us has to be Mary, persons of faith, attentive to others, and ready to embrace the cross, trusting that God will be with us to give us the strength. And we pray that our devotion becomes also life.